12 brand new houses sat neatly on my land. Manicured lawns, solar panels, cul-de-sac. Smiles like nothing was wrong. And I'm standing there with a county map on my tablet thinking, did I miss the part where I sold my soul and 6 acres to a homeowners association? Because I sure don't remember signing that. You know what I mean. I'm Mason. I read contracts for breakfast. I don't spook easy, but that day, my hands got a little cold on the steering wheel. Not from fear, exactly. From that feeling you get when somebody mistakes your silence for weakness and tries to build a kingdom on your dirt. It started with a voicemail from Toby, my surveyor buddy. With a voice like gravel, he said, "I'm overlaying parcels and your name is inside Coyote Hills. You didn't sell anything, right?" Because I'm looking at houses, a lot of houses. I drove out. Walked the loop slow like a guy coming home from hot yoga with a $5 latte. Counted the roof lines 10. Clearly over my boundaries too, straddling the line like a drunk on a curb, and not a single stake or orange fence to say sorry neighbor. We borrowed your earth without asking. I called the number on the HOA website, asked for the president, got a pleasant voice with stainless steels behind it. She said, "Mr. Reed, that parcel was merged during Phase 2. It's part of Coyote Hills now." And I said, "That's news to me because I didn't authorize a merge." And she said, "Then contact the county as far as we're concerned. Everything's in order." Click. I laughed. Not because it was funny, because arrogance is predictable. People like that bet you'll fold. Write a long email, go away quietly. I went home and opened a war room on my kitchen table. Deeds, surveys, old napkins. Uncle Roy scribbled irrigation notes on. I brewed coffee, strong enough to file motions, and by dawn, the facts were clean. Titles mine, zoning unchanged. No annexations, no transfers, no easements, no ghost signatures. Toby brought a crew at first light. Set tripods that looked like they could talk to satellites, and by sundown, our numbers were brutal. The whole Phase 2 was built 41 feet west of the approved site plan, and those 41 feet ran through the middle of my 6 acres like a knife. I drove to the county, asked the clerk for everything tied to Coyote Hills. He frowned, tilted. The screen said, "There was a temporary boundary correction 5 years ago, merging my parcel with the neighbor for development purposes. No owner signature on file, not standard practice, and the requester was a city liaison. I knew from conferences. A guy who collected free lunches and first-name bases with developers, and sure enough, his social follows lined up with the HOA president. Yeah, that happened. I left with copies that could stop a train, called the president back. Left a calm message. "Brianna, I have a certified survey and county records showing your build is sitting on my property without authorization. I am open to a civil conversation until 5 p.m. After that, it's court." No callbacks, but the next morning I got a letter accusing me of trespassing and intimidating residents, which I framed and hung in the bathroom because petty deserves porcelain. Then I filed unlawful construction on private land trespass, falsified record interference with property rights, and I asked for a preliminary injunction granting me operational control until ownership was clarified. My attorney, Kendra, speaks like a Sunday school teacher and slices like a scalpel. We walked into court with the survey, the county printouts. A log of my polite attempts, and the judge looked over her glasses and said to the HOA lawyer, "With the $1,000 haircut, you're telling me you built a dozen homes on the strength of a temporary boundary adjustment, with no owner signature and no recorded follow-up." And he said we were under the impression proper channels were followed. And she said Until this is resolved, those homes are on Mr. Reed's land. Motion granted. I stepped into the sunlight, with control of 12 high-end homes, and a to-do list formed Mesa Vista Rentals, registered as temporary landlord. Under the order told the county. Printed glossy flyers. Now leasing on the Mesa. No HOA pay on time. Respect your neighbors, live your life, starting at $30 per month, and within a weekend, we'd signed 5 leases. Remote workers, a retired couple with dogs, a widow named Tara, who said she just wanted to plant tomatoes without permission slips. Same, Tara. Same. The HOA lost composure in record time. A community alert went to every mailbox warning residents about an unauthorized individual renting homes and threatening fines. Orleans' anonymous flyers appeared under windshields, saying zoning violations were under investigation. No logo, no number, just red fonts. And Fear Board members started power walking the streets with clipboards writing down plates like they were deputized by Facebook. One guy with a square jaw parked across from my rental every afternoon and glared like his stare could evict a lease, and then Sagebrush Ridge PD called about an anonymous complaint. Suspicious activity. Possible drugs. A known felon running an illegal rental business. Classic move. Weaponized concern. Hope the mess makes me fold. Officers showed up. I met them at the curb with the court order. Leases. Survey copies. Camera timestamps on a tablet. They took 5 minutes to realize they'd been pulled into a neighborhood Cold War. One finally said under his breath, "This is HOA drama, isn't it?" I said the worst kind, and we shook hands like neighbors. That night, I poured a bourbon and drafted the second suit. Defamation interference with business filing, false reports, civil harassment, and that's when my voicemail lit up. A board member named Elise, with a tremor in her voice. There would be a community meeting. Brianna would make a statement, but let her talk, let her dig. I doubled my cameras and aimed 2 at the little park they'd built. Partly on my land, so if something ugly walked out of the dark, I'd see it. The twist landed at 1:53 a.m. 2 nights later, Tara called, saying there was smoke at the corner house. No one was inside. Thank God. The upstairs was charred the deck, a black skeleton, and by morning we had footage of a hooded figure limping from the park. Easement with a red gas can, one angle caught the face a split second under the porch light, and the name clicked from the HOA website. Evan Cole, Brianna's brother, who in public records had 2 prior arson cases tied to insurance. Yeah, that happened too. Police picked him up with gas on his shoes and a receipt for cans in his pocket. Brianna said she hadn't seen him in weeks, but phone location and call logs told a different story. Her SUV pinged near the park at 2:03 a.m. Investigators seized her phone board meeting, suddenly paused news vans parked at the entrance like it was a TV season finale. Brianna asked to meet at a country club restaurant that pronounces ranch. With an accent mark, she arrived late in a white pantsuit and offered a handshake. I didn't take ordered Chardonnay and said, "Let's make this quick. We'll give you $100,000 for the disputed acreage and all structures on it." And I said, "You're offering 6 figures for a dozen houses built without authorization on land you never owned." And she said, "It's a goodwill gesture. You walk away with cash and no entanglements." And I leaned in just enough and said, "Brianna, the next entanglement involves handcuffs." She flinched, muttered about community. And I said, "You sent letters." You called cops, and now there's fire on my porch. If that's community, keep it. I left a 20 for the server and walked. Court came like weather charges, stacked up fraud, falsification, harassment, accessory to arson. Then a racketeering count, under state law. When the treasurer Darren flipped with a flash drive full of internal emails and meeting notes, where they admitted the survey error, joked, I'd take a check and disappear, voted to push anonymous letters, and funneled dues from homes that weren't theirs through a non-profit shell. In the courtroom, Kendra kept her voice soft and the facts loud. And when a text from Brianna to her brother read, just make sure it can't be traced to me, the room went very still. The judge ruled long and clear, called the HOA negligent and corrosive to public trust, awarded me full ownership of the 12 homes and the land under them, dissolved the HOA as unfit to govern assessed damages at $1.3 million, barred Brianna from board roles, sent Evan to prison on arson. And when a reporter asked how I felt on the steps, I said like I pulled a nail out of my own foot, and the laugh you heard wasn't a joke. 6 months after the dust settled, Mesa Vista sounded like a neighborhood again. We tore out a half-finished members-only pavilion and built a little park with shade and raised beds and a dog run. Put up an online portal with maintenance requests and a mischievous button labeled Report. Brianna-like behavior. I hired Tara to run the office because her smile says welcome, and her eyes say, don't test me. We kept the rules simple. Pay on time. Don't be a jerk. Respect your neighbors. Grill what you want, radical, I know. And I did splurge on a brushed steel sign at the entrance that says build where you want. But if it's on my land, you play by my rules. Realtors hate it. Tenants take selfies with it. And when someone tried to tag it at 2 a.m., the camera caught him, and Tara handed him a bucket and a broom, and he cleaned it himself. Do I think every HOA is evil? No. But I know what it looks like when power stops serving people and starts feeding on them. And I know what it feels like to be underestimated till you're not. You push back, you hold the line, you breathe again, and you plant tomatoes without asking anyone. If you think I went too far renting those houses, say it if you think I didn't go far enough. Say that too. You ever watched a rule book turn into a weapon or had a neighborhood run like a private club? Tell me in the comments. Who was right? Who was wrong? Where do we draw the line? And if you were me that day on the cul-de-sac, would you have walked away for a check? Or would you have done exactly what I did?